Yeah, we are now back on the air. So this is part 3 and the final part of episode 16. Uh, who the rookies of the year should be for the AL and the NL. It's been a pretty for both leagues. It's been a pretty interesting race. Where like at one point it looked like Paul Skeens was running away with it. It even looked like Paul Skeens might end up winning, might make a run for the Cy Young Award at one point. And then Jackson Merrill happened, and it kind of became Jackson Merrill's award to lose. And I think it's basically turned into a 2-man race and a 2-man debate in the National League. And then
Not so fast, my friend. I think he's not the only outfielder named Jackson who's in the NL Rookie of the Year race. If I'm being honest, Jackson Chourio has had quiet as it's kept, and very surprising, especially considering the Brewers have been in first place most of the way here. I think the fact that Jackson Chourio struggled for the first call it 2 months, there was such expectations on him because he'd been a top 3 global prospect for about 2 years. And then he signed that deal before he played his first game. So he had all the marks of someone where it's like, okay, he's supposed to be next. I think people looked at him and thought, okay, everything we've seen from him, this is what Corbin Carroll did all these same things leading into last year. And then he took off. And he wasn't explosive out of the gates right away. But really I would say almost since mid-June at this point, Jackson Chourio has started playing exactly like the guy we thought he was going to be. And I think if the Brewers make any waves in the postseason, it's through him. That's going to be a guy, I think, not to get sidetracked, but if you're in a redraft fantasy league, that guy's going in the first round next year. I think he's got 2020. If not, he's really close.
He is very close.
The has improved very much. The contact has improved very much. He looks like the guy that we were being sold at this time last year.
Yeah. So as we speak, he is. He has 20 stolen bases, and he is 1 home run away from hitting that 2020. He has 19 homers. Right now, his WAR is only 0.2. It's only 0.2 lower than Jackson Merrill's WAR. But I would still probably give the slight edge to Merrill. And I know WAR is not the end all be all, but
that's fair.
But Paul Skeens does have a 5.2 WAR as a pitcher. Now this is based on there are different variations of WAR. There's FWAR for Fangraphs. There's baseball BWAR for Baseball Reference. So I'm looking at
WAR is very different from position player WAR too. So there's that.
Yeah. So WAR for a pitcher can definitely be inflated. But honestly, and when we said we were going to talk about this, I kind of saw this as an opportunity to kind of be a homer for both leagues. A homer in the sense of my team, which we'll get to, but also a homer for my second favorite team, and the city I live in now, in Pittsburgh. I'm gonna, I know that Jackson Merrill, according to the gambling odds, and it does seem like it is kind of his award to lose at this point. He's minus 440 to win it. Skeens is plus 310, and then Chourio is Chourio's kind of like the dark horse. He's plus 1800. And those are the top 3, and then everyone else is a super duper long shot, like Imanaga and Mason Wynn and Tyler Fitzgerald,
which is crazy because I know Imanaga dipped for a little bit, and he hasn't hit the highs that he did for that first month and a half, but he's been pretty steady since the All-Star break.
Since he came back, he's definitely been really good. And now he, he's probably not going to win it because he probably missed too much time. But he's a very much a long shot to win. He's plus 17,000. Mason Wynn and Tyler Fitzgerald, I feel like they've had some good moments, but they probably haven't put together enough of not taking anything away from them, but in comparison, they probably just haven't put together good enough of rookie seasons.
I think in Tyler
to
Fitzgerald's case, he just doesn't have enough of a body of work. I mean, what we've seen is impressive.
great.
You just didn't do this for the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah, they either not a large enough sample size or they haven't sustained it for long enough to really get consideration. So yeah, like those are definitely the top three, the two Jacksons and Skeens. But yeah, I'm gonna be a homer. I'm gonna say it should be Paul Skeens because I mean, really, every time he takes the mound for the Pirates, I mean, he's not that win-loss record is like a big indicator of anything, but
No,
he's 10-2. So like, and like I think aside from that, the Pirates have only lost like a couple of other games that he's started. So I mean, like the majority of the time, and the Pirates are a team that definitely, that have definitely struggled to put together wins, and they've struggled with hitting, and like they've struggled to really put it all together, and a lot of fans were hoping this would be the year they could like do that and break their playoff drought, but that unfortunately won't happen. But really every time Paul Skeens goes out there, he's he's fanning a lot of batters. He has incredible stuff. He's giving them really the best chance possible, to win as long as their bullpen doesn't blow it. It's kind of hard to compare, like it's a little hard to compare like pitchers to hitters when you're talking about like, because I mean like really it's like, for like MVP and Cy Young, it's like, all right, like they're kind of two separate awards unless it's Shohei Ohtani in a year where he is pitching. But it's really more like, all right, like this award is for like hitters and everyday players, and then you have this award which is for pitchers. For rookie of the year, it's like a little more convoluted because it becomes a little bit more of a difficult comparison to make because it could be either a hitter or a pitcher. But to me, I think it's got to be Paul Skeens. Just every time he comes out, he's absolutely electric. He has a 2.10 ERA, like, and when you also consider like how quickly he came up through the league, like, he was just drafted like a little over a year ago. He was the number 1 overall pick of 2023. And, usually teams take their sweet time, getting their draft picks up to the majors. But, Skeens, Skeens was ready, and they pulled the trigger on him early. And, never once did it really look like, the moment's too big for him or anything like that. Like, has he been perfect? No. And I think part of the reason why the odds shifted so much like from him to Jackson Merrill's favor is just because like Jackson Merrill had been like on fire, and I mean Jackson Merrill's a hell of a player. He's great too, so like this is no slight at him at all. But like Jackson Merrill kind of caught fire, and then I think like the Pirates got to a point where they kind of started limiting his innings like more and more. I mean, they had been limiting his innings like kind of from the beginning, or keeping a close eye on his pitch counts and stuff like that. But now that they're more like out of it, they don't really give him as much length. And like he had a few starts that he like also was just like not on the winning end of, and the Padres, like pretty much without Jackson Merrill, the Padres probably aren't a playoff team right now. Like he's a big part of why they're like in the first wild card spot and probably going to make it to the playoffs. So, I think there's an argument for both. But for the sake of being a homer, and just because he's really like one of the best pitchers I've seen come up in a pretty long time at this point, I'm going to go with Skeens for the NL.
I would tend to agree with that, if just because everything he's done, this was exactly what everybody predicted the day he got drafted. Like, we watched him at LSU last year, all through the regular season, as his profile grew, and it's okay. That guy might go 1 because he had just transferred to LSU ahead of 23, and then as that season went on, it's okay. This guy could go 1, and then more people started watching during the NCAA tournament. It was Forget that. This guy could be pitching right now. There were
Yeah.
people even, the day he went 1 that it was, why
Within,
waste this guy in the minors? This guy is that good right now. Like,
yeah.
we saw him against the best of the best in college, and he didn't flinch. If you're the Pirates, what do you have to lose? Just bring him up. And when you draft a college pitcher 1-1, you know that you're going to get him up quicker than you would a high school arm. And so there's that expectation of it
or a
was
position
with
player.
Strasburg. It was how soon can he get here? How good can he be right away?
Yeah.
I think when Paul Skeens went 1, it was, well, he's going to be this good when he gets here, right? And to meet all those expectations and to be, especially when you're a number 1 pick, there is that idea of you're reviving the franchise. And for as much as Paul Skeens can do that for the Pirates, given the litany of other things, like he's given the Pirates a reason to feel optimistic for the first time in a while. And I don't know if they'll get the other things right, but on him, he's done just about everything he could to drag the Pirates into this. And for a little while, he was. Now, the fact that they've fallen out of it, not on him.
Not at all.
For a number 1 overall pick that everyone thought could do this, to go out there and match those expectations with the idea of you're going to turn this franchise around, I think you absolutely have to salute that. And this is no slight on Jackson Merrill, because he made the All-Star team this year, and he looks like someone that, there were all these times that the Padres were in trade rumors, and it was, well, would they trade Merrill for this guy? Now we kind of see why he was the guy that they didn't.
Yep.
Make complete sense. But yeah, Paul Skeens meeting expectations that very few guys get to go there and deliver. To me, he's the rookie of the year.
Yeah, I think you could maybe even argue he's exceeded expectations. And I mean, he's definitely brought a buzz to this city for baseball that has really not existed in a pretty long time. Like in a good 8 or 9 years. It's been a good 8 or 9 years since the city's really been like buzzing about the Pirates, or like since I've really like gone to a Pirates game and seen like a big crowd at a game where it's like they're not, and even just like a random game, not just like, because like when they're playing like the Yankees or the Mets or like the Dodgers or like things like that, even like the Cubs, like those teams fans will kind of fill up the ballpark. But even to go to some games and really just see like a full house predominantly of just Pirates fans, that's like a breath of fresh air. It's something that Pittsburgh hasn't really seen in a long time.
And the closest comp to that was early Strasburg before the Nationals got good, where it was the idea of, okay, here's this guy that is supposed to be the generational arm. This is the guy that's going to bring us to relevance. This is the guy who's going to save our team. And every single start becomes box office. And it's, all right, what's he going to do today? And then the amazing thing is, more often than not, he's going to do something that wows you, or you're going to leave that game going, wow, he's here already. I don't think there's been a rookie pitcher on that scale who had those sort of expectations attached to them and then delivered to that degree and had the wow factor of, you stop what you're doing. I was like, oh, Skeens is pitching. All right, I'm going to go. Even as someone who's not a Pirates fan, and I know you enjoy him, Chris, because you're in Pittsburgh, so it's a little bit different for you because it's right there. But even for me, as someone who doesn't root for the Pirates, doesn't live in Pittsburgh, to feel like, okay, all right, oh, Skeens is out there right now. All right, I'll watch. Like those are the kind of things that I don't think we've seen since early Strasburg, and I think that's probably about the highest compliment I can pay.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like, to that point as well, like even like a month ago when my family came to visit me, my mom told me that she wanted to go to a Pirates game, and I was like, all right, yeah, we could definitely do that. And then she told me, she's like, oh, I want to see, she's like, I want to go to a game where Skeens is pitching. I was like, you know who he is? Like what? Like my mom doesn't really. My mom doesn't really like follow ball like that, at least not anymore. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't really, we weren't able to like make it happen because he pitched like a couple days before they got to town. So the schedule like didn't line up, but but yeah, like, you know, he's like definitely like cultivating in a way where even like, you know, the very, very casual baseball fans are like taking an interest in him and watching him pitch. And then, you know, you had the moment with Aaron Judge and Skeens pitching the Judge and Soto in the All-Star game and stuff like that, or like even when like Shohei Ohtani like went yard on him and he just kind of smiled, like, I don't know, that picture just goes hard. I mean, none of this is like
He's had
reasons why he
multiple
should be.
no-hit bids.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's
he's
crazy
been
for a rookie. That's crazy for
he's
anybody.
yeah, he's been taken out of multiple games where he had a no hitter going through like 6 or 7 innings. So yeah, he's really done stuff like, yeah, like you said, like that we really haven't seen since Strasburg, and he might even, you know, he might even be might even have exceeded Strasburg's rookie year. You know, for all I know. So yeah, I would go. Yeah, I would definitely go with Skeens for NL Rookie of the Year. I think it's deserved. The NL Rookie of the Year arguments and discussions are interesting because it's kind of a different argument than like MVP. Because like MVP, it's like, okay, like are we giving this to the player that's the most valuable to their team, or are we just giving it to the player with the best numbers? Like, what are we doing here? And there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of quantify that. I feel like Rookie of the Year arguments are a little more straightforward, and it's just like kind of like who's the best. And I mean, granted he doesn't play every day, but every fifth day when he takes the mound, there's really no rookie in the National League that's better than Paul Skeens.
Well, the AL Rookie of the Year is going to be interesting just because like they feel like two completely different races. Because in the NL, it's okay. You know, Skeens started the All-Star game and he's been fantastic all year. Merrill's really come on in the past 3 months. He started the All-Star game. He's contributing to a winning team every day. Jackson Churio's starting every day for a team that's probably going to win their division, and he's been excellent for 3 months now. Imanaga is going to win 13, 14 games as a rookie, like they've all had their moments. So all of them have a compelling case. When we look at the AL, it's one of those. I look up and down that list, and it's. I mean, yeah, I could see it a little bit. Whereas, I mean, we just had this very good discussion here where it's like, yeah, I could see if they gave it to Merrill. I could see if they gave it to Skeens. I could see it's like Curio making a push. With the AL, it's the Larry David.
More like, yeah, the AL it's almost like more like someone has to win the award.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of like who's gonna like really separate themselves from the pack. And you know, I've been kind of keeping an eye on like I've been kind of keeping an eye on like what the like what that race looks like from the odds perspective. And it's been an interesting race. I mean, I'd say it's down to 2, maybe 3 players right now, and they all reside within the AL East. Even some of the long shots are also residing in the AL East. So yeah, so like
I'm
right now
on this list of potential favorites, Colt Keith's not on there. That one, I'm not saying he should win, because I see some of these other names and they're more deserving. I think Colt Keith should at least be in the conversation. That did surprise me.
Where are you looking out of curiosity?
So I'm looking at the Fox Sports list, which has 10.
Okay.
They have Mason Miller's 10th. I think Mason Miller might have actually ran away with this if he didn't get hurt. Because I feel like everyone in baseball is like, no, that guy's nice. Yeah, that's the best closer in the sport.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. But it's interesting you say that Colt Keith didn't even make the list because so I'm looking at like the FanDuel odds and like their top and they only have 7 players listed. So they have Austin Wells as the favorite at -140. Then they got Colton Cowser is in second, +160. Then you have Luis Heel at +600, who was for a little while he was like the favorite. Not really running away with it, but he was definitely the favorite for a good period of time. And then they have Wilyer Abreu. They have Colt Keith at number 5 at +20,000. Then they have Cedane Rafaela, and then Mason Miller. So Colt Keith, Rafaela, and Mason Miller are all like like super duper long shots, and then Abreu's like the long shot. Heel's kind of like the dark horse, and then it's really like basically a 2-man race between Austin Wells and Colton Cowser. And in this case, I'm also gonna go ahead and be a homer about it. I mean, looking at their wars for this season, Austin Wells does have a slightly higher WAR than Colton Cowser. Wells has a 2.7. Cowser has a 2.3. Cowser's offensive numbers are definitely a little more impressive than Wells. He does have 20 homers. His OPS plus is 120. He does have 62 ribbies and 8 stolen bases. So he's pretty. He's definitely a hell of a player, and obviously just another one of those Baltimore clones that's doing the damn thing. And then Wells is a little behind. He has he's a little behind that. He has 13 homers, OPS of 780, and an OPS plus of 118. So he's like just a tick or two behind. To me, what makes Wells what makes Wells my rookie of the year now, aside from the fact that I'm just being incredibly biased as a Yankee fan, is the fact that he's also playing catcher, which is like kind of the most demanding, the most like mentally demanding position in the game, because he's like doing all this, like he's putting up all these numbers at the plate, and also as a rookie, being expected to call the games and and be like a good framer for Cole and for Heel and Rodon and Stroman and so on and so forth, Clark Schmidt, Nestor Cortez, and he's caught pretty well. His defense has certainly been an upgrade over Trevino, who was absolutely pitiful, and his bat was pretty pitiful as well. Like, I think that there's so obviously he's not like a make or break player for the Yankees in terms of like going to the playoffs or not, but I think there's a strong case that if Austin Wells doesn't emerge, the way he has kind of a little, like later in the season, that maybe without him, maybe we're not in a division race right now. Maybe we're just like more firmly in the wild card. But yeah, no, Austin Wells has he's been a force at the plate, and he's been great behind the plate, and he's done a very good job of like managing the staff and managing the game with the bullpen. Like, I mean really any bullpen woes that we have, I'm definitely not putting on him. So the fact that he's just been the fact that he's like done this well, pun intended, at both at the plate, which is really hard to do as a catcher, especially as a rookie, and the fact that and the fact that he's at least competent defensively, if not a little more than competent. That to me makes him the rookie of the year in the AL for me.
Yeah, this one you can kind of put down to impact in the sense of, I mean, not just behind the plate, but not just at the plate, but like you said, being able to handle the staff. And I mean, just think about where the Yankees were at catcher when Austin Wells started taking over the majority of the playing time. That whole series with Jose Trevino in Boston had just happened. Right. And imagine if they had just had to go back to him, and he had been figured out. Like that could have changed so many games for the Yankees over the past 3 months. So not even for the fact that he's a stable presence at the dish, but also the fact that he can handle the staff and the running game. And, as someone wearing this, I will value defense.
Hell
so it's not just the fact that Austin Wells has injected some life into the lineup, which the Yankees definitely needed there, but being able to ease some of the concerns for the pitching staff on both ends, not just the receiving, but the throwing. I think Colton Cowser had a chance to run away with this early in the season because he started out on fire for the first month. And obviously he was never going to continue at the rate he was at. But if he had been, say, 80% of that first month, yeah, this even for as good as Wells was, if he had hit like 80% of that for the whole year, yeah,
Yeah,
Colton
give it
Cowser
to him.
gets that. But
I'd be okay with that.
he's been a league average right fielder, which again, not easy to do for a rookie on a team that has World Series aspirations. But here's Austin Wells coming in at the much more demanding position and has handled himself quite well, both with the bat and as a defender. And I think in that case, the defense becomes the tiebreaker there as well. So yeah, if Austin Wells takes it, I'd have no issue with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely one of those awards that it feels kind of like if say like one of Skeens, Churio, or Merrill, like say one of them was in the AL, then like they'd be like far and away the AL Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like say like I don't know, say Merrill played for like the Angels or something. He'd probably, he would still be like running away with he'd be running away with the AL Rookie of the Year, and Skeens would be the NL
Also, but the Angels have developed Jackson Merrill this well. I mean,
yeah.
no, the Fox Sports list I'm on, I said they had 10. They have Nolan Schanuel on here. All right, I know technically he didn't have enough at bats last year to qualify. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It sounds like whoever like wrote that article or made that list just doesn't really know ball.
The funny thing is they don't even have 10 for the NL. That's the wild thing. They did 6 for the NL and then 10 for the AL, which they have Schanuel ahead of Mason Miller, which again, I understand the injuries kind of cut short his year, so he hasn't been able to accrue as many statistics. I would still say Mason Miller's had the better rookie year. Not a doubt in my mind. There's a few guys ahead of him I would say he's had a better rookie year than, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that's because he's the A's closer, so it's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people, and like only once in a while if he throws a ninth inning where it's all 100-mile-per-hour pitches and it pops up the next day, oh wow. But I think the people that watch every day, like, I think they know, okay, yeah. Like, there was a reason teams were calling the A's before he got hurt. Like, yeah, we need this guy.
Yeah, no, I was, and I do wonder if Merrill had gotten traded to, because I mean, if he would have got traded to an NL team, then that kind of like fucks the whole thing up. But if he would have been traded to another AL team, like if he was traded to, say, the Yankees or the Orioles or like whatever team, whatever contending teams were, bidding for his potentially bidding for his services. And I guess the fact that he got hurt definitely like hurt those chances. But I also kind of think it was the right call for the A's to not trade him. I mean, you could argue that his value is as high as it is right now, especially at the deadline if he was healthy.
It's Oakland.
Yeah, I mean they will eventually, but I think you're moving to Sacramento and then Vegas. You got to have someone on that team that like people will want to come out and see. So I feel like it's good that they at least still have him.
Well,
that.
We can't just discredit Brent Rooker like this, but I see your point.
Yeah.
It is a visibility thing, though, because, like we mentioned, Colt Keith isn't on the list that I saw, but they have Wyatt Langford on there. And I would say they've had roughly the same season.
Yeah.
But by virtue of the fact that Texas has made more TV or national TV appearances this year because they're the defending champs, and the fact that Wyatt Langford was what? Did he go what, like top 20, or he went at least the first round?
He went very high, and
so people knew about him.
Yeah, and he and like there's definitely like some definitely like a little bit of recency bias because he did because he went 4th overall last year, and there's definitely a little bit of recency because he did catch fire. Like, I mean, it's not the first time he's caught fire this year, but like very recently he has caught fire. So there is a little bit of recency bias there, but
like say if the Tigers were getting the national exposure that they were 12 years ago, And I
Oh, yeah,
understand
that
why
can,
they don't, because they haven't been good for a while. But if Detroit was getting paid attention to the way that Texas is, I think Colt Keith would get talked about a lot more. I don't think him and Langford have had that different of a season. And really, if anything, Colt Keith's been above average for at least 2 months at this point. So,
yeah, no, that definitely can, yeah, that definitely like convolutes it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think that, out of, and like, yeah, Heel might have ran away with AL Rookie of the Year if he didn't get hurt too. And if he, like as long as he was able to kind of work through that funk that he had, I think that, he could have like ran away with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that, there's an argument for, there's arguments to be made, arguments to be had, who could be the Rookie of the Year. And I think that, there's arguments for many, but we have spoken on who are, who we'd go with. And, I think that, I think that's going to pretty much do it for us here for episode 16. So thank you all for tuning in. And, please provide us with feedback, since we are going to be splitting this up, a little bit of a different format. Definitely give us some feedback, how you feel about it, how you like this. Do you prefer it? Do you prefer getting the episode in, 3 different parts or so, or do you prefer it all in one go? Because we're very open to feedback, and, as we experiment through this,
we're here
you
for
know,
you.
as the as the 4 to 7 pod is on the horizon, we definitely want to make sure that, when that time does come, that we're giving you all the best possible product in the most digestible way. So definitely let us know your feedback as far as like how you like these episodes presented to you. As always, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the Middle Initial Podcast YouTube channel at MyPod TV. Follow MIPod 69. Stay inspired by 69, and follow the BDPod 24 and the Ascension Pod NW. And you can follow us. All that information is down the ticker below and has been for the whole episode. But that's going to do it for us, and we will see you next week. Whoosh.